IXL section Q7, evaluate a function. Alright, so before we start, let me ask you a question. Alright, let's see if you understand what's written here. Alright, look at the first example. It says if x equals 2, solve for y. Okay, if x equals 2, solve for y. So it says here the equation is y equals 3x plus 1. So if x equals 2, I take that 2, I take this 2, and I put it right here where x is. Hey, I substitute it right there for x. So the problem now becomes y equals 3 times 2 plus 1. I follow the order of operations and do 3 times 2, which is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So y equals 7. Did you understand that? If you did, then you already know how to evaluate a function. If you understand this, then you already know how to evaluate a function. Let's look at one more example. If x equals negative 4, solve for y. Alright, so y equals 3x plus 1. Same exact equation. Alright, so you take the negative 4 and you put it right here. Substitute for x. And it becomes 3 times negative 4 plus 1. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11. If you understood how to do that, you already know how to evaluate a function. Alright, so if you understood these two examples, I don't want to hear anything about that this IXL is difficult. If it's difficult for you, that has to mean that you are weak on a lot of basic math stuff, but it has nothing to do with the new language that I'm going to introduce in this IXL. It has to do with you being weak at stuff you should have learned in middle school. Alright? Let me just repeat that in Spanish real quick. Ok, si entienden estos problemas, saben todo lo que tienen que saber para este IXL. El primero dice, si x es igual a 2, resuelven para y. Ok, así que y es igual a 3x más 1. Tengo que sustituir este valor de 2 donde está x y seguir la orden de operaciones. 3 por 2 me da 6 y 6 más 1 me da 7. Así que y es igual a 7. Aquí la misma cosa, x es igual a negativo 4, así que, y dice que tengo que resolver para y. Así que tengo que sustituir ese valor para x y hago 3 multiplicado por negativo 4, que me da negativo 12, y negativo 12 más 1, que me da negativo 11, así que y igual a negativo 11. Si entendieron eso, saben todo lo que necesitan de saber para hacer los problemas de hoy. Así que no quiero historia de que es muy difícil. Si tienen dificultad haciendo estos problemas es porque no aprendieron bien cómo hacer cosas básicas de matemática en middle school, de multiplicar y restar y sumar y dividir. No tiene nada que ver con lo nuevo que voy a introducir ahora. Okay, so look, the only thing different from what you just did is that today's problems are going to be written in function notation. Function notation. All function notation is instead of writing y equals 3x plus 1, instead of writing that, it's going to say f of x. That's how you read it. F of x equals 3x plus 1. Please do not, because I would notice this when I would teach this to Algebra 1 freshmen. Please do not read that fx. That's not how you read it. You read it f of x. Say it correctly in your mind or you're going to learn it wrong and sound not smart whenever you say that to other people. Okay? Maybe not freshman year, but down the road, people are going to listen to you and be like, wow, this person doesn't know the way to say that. Alright? So, function notation. Alright, basically, functions are given letter names. In this case, the letter is f. Alright? The names are in the form f of x, which is read f of x. F of x. In future math problems, maybe not today, but in the future, it might be this year, it might be next class, I don't know. But in future math problems, you'll see other function names, like it could say g of x equals whatever. I'm going to make something up, 5x, minus 3, whatever. I'm just putting whatever. It could say h of x, all right? But basically, that's how you write them. It could say, just to make something else up, 12 over x. It could be anything, all right? But they could put different letters here. The main one that they always use is f. But once you start using more functions for more complicated math stuff, they're going to use different letters. So this one I would read f of x, g of x, h of x. That's how you read it. Get in the habit of saying it in your mind correctly, even if you're not saying it out loud in the classroom. If you just say fx, you're going to say it like that, and I'm telling you, you're saying it wrong, and you're going to sound dumb to the people that know how to read it. So please, in your mind, say f of x whenever you read that, all right? And as you can see here, basically, look, just to continue before I say it in Spanish, all right? Let me erase this. All right, this is the function. I'll keep the same rule. F of x equals 3x plus 1. Okay, so if I give you different values for x, like let's say x equals 5, all right, that means this is your input. You're inputting, input. Remember I said that all the x values are the input? You're inputting that value into the function. Okay, so that means a 5 goes here. So now you have f of 5. Yes, I said f of 5 equals 3 times 5 plus 1. All I did is substitute wherever the x is, the number 5, because that is my input. Alright, so f of 5 equals 3 times 5 plus 1. So f of 5 equals 16. That means when x equals 5, your answer is going to be 16. That's all that means. I'm not doing anything complicated, all right? So please don't pretend like this is complicated. Here's another example, all right? I'll do the one that it says here. If x equals 2, all right? And this is my rule. Again, this is my input. It's my input. I'm inputting it into the function. So wherever x is, I'm substituting the number 2. Today you won't have to write this 2, but I'm just showing you that that's how it's written. So that means that when x is 2, or another way, let me say f of 2 equals 7. That's the same thing I did at the beginning where it said y equals 7. It's just another way of writing that has different uses, that as we go further on into algebra and geometry and algebra 2 or trigonometry, you'll see further uses of it. But that's all we're doing, substituting that value for x and working out the equation. So that is not difficult. I don't want to hear anything about this being difficult, because I know that's not difficult, and I know that there's no way you could think that's difficult. All right? All right, so let me just say all that in Spanish, okay? Notación de funciones. Las funciones reciben nombres de letras. Okay, las nombres tienen la forma esta que se lee f de x, f de x. En inglés, f of x, f of x, f de x. Okay, en el futuro vamos a ver diferentes nombres. Por ejemplo, esto lo pueden nombrar g de x e igual a bla bla bla, h de x igual a bla bla bla. Hoy no creo que sale nada como eso, pero es la misma cosa. Pero casi siempre lo principal que usan es f de x y solamente usan otras letras cuando son problemas más complicados o que usan más que una función. ¿Ok? Pero así es simplemente como se escribe la notación de funciones. Pero es igualito que lo que hice al principio de esta lección, así que no quiero oír nada de que esto es difícil. ¿Ok? Aquí puse el ejemplo que si x es igual a 2, ¿ok? X es el valor de entrada. En inglés, el input, ¿ok? Que ese es el número que está entrando en la función. Así que donde quiera que esté la x, estoy sustituyendo el número 2. Así que f de 2 es igual a 3 por 2 más 1, que el resultado me da 7. Así que f de 2 es igual a 7. También puede ver que lo van a escribir f de x es igual a 7 en una situación como esta donde solamente hay un valor para x que estamos usando. Alright, you may see the answer also written just f of x equals 7 if there's only one value of x that we're using. Alright, let's look at the examples from IXL. Vamos a mirar los ejemplos. Oops. There I just put the same thing from the beginning, just rewritten this way. Okay, aquí está lo mismo del principio, pero lo escribí de nuevo con f de x. Alright, let's look at some examples. You know what, I should have... Whatever, I'm not going to erase it now, but I should have written f of 2, f of 2. Let me just put it there to correct my mistake, okay? Debí haber escrito aquí f de 2, f de 2, f de 2. Aquí f de negativo 4, f de negativo 4, f de negativo 4. Alright, just so you realize that's what I should have written. Alright, so let's look at the first problem. Use the following function rule to find f of 1. All that means is that you're going to substitute for x, you're going to substitute number 1. Esto quiere decir que para x vamos a sustituir el número 1. Alright, so there's my function rule. If this is the function rule, whoops, hold on. Then f of 1 equals 4 minus 1. Oh my gosh, that is really hard. That is my answer. That's it. Okay? Ya, eso es todo. Para x tengo que sustituir el número 1, así que 4 menos 1 es 3. Ya terminé. Easy. Easy peasy. Alright, look at this one. Find f of 2. Encuentren f de 2. Alright, so when you substitute it into the function rule, you're going to have this. Now, you always got to follow the order of operations. PEMDAS. Tenemos que seguir la orden de operaciones. And PEMDAS says you got to multiply before you add or subtract. So first I got to multiply these two. You could either think about this as 2 times 2 and keep the negative sign in the front, or I prefer to think about it as negative 2 times 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. And 4 minus 4 equals 0. You could do this mental math, alright? Again, I don't want anyone to tell me this is difficult. Don't lie to me, don't lie to yourself. This is easy. If you have any difficulty, it's because you have difficulties with basic math, not because you have difficulties with function rules or function notation. Okay? Si alguien tiene problema con esto es porque no aprendieron bien matemática básico. Okay? No es porque no entienden cómo usar notación de función, porque es súper fácil. Alright, so right here, f of 120. Alright, I substitute 120 wherever x is. Alright, so order of operations says first you gotta divide before you could add. La orden de operación me dice que primero divido antes de sumar. Let's not grab a calculator because this one's easy. 120 divided by 8. 8 goes into 12 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract 12 minus 8, I get 4. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 40 5 times. That's it. Don't reach for a calculator. That's weak. Alright? So, don't be weak. Be Cobra Kai. Always be Cobra Kai. Alright. So, I got 1 plus 15. So, f of 120 equals 16. Whoops. I didn't mean to put that. I got carried away. 16 es la respuesta. You could have done this mental math. Just in your mind, you could have done 8 goes into 12 one time, remainder 4. 8 goes into 40 5 times. Only cool people do that, though. If you want to be cool, do it mental math. Don't be weak. Alright. Next one. Mister, what are those lines, mister? Well, golly gee, kids, I'm glad you asked. Remember, that means absolute value. Absolute value. Absolute value. Alright, absolute value means, just to put a random number here, it means how far away is that number from 0. So absolute value is always the same number, you just drop any negative signs. Okay? Valor absoluto es lo que significa esas dos rayas. Eso quiere decir que es la distancia de este número a 0. La respuesta siempre es el mismo número y si tiene un signo negativo se quita el signo negativo porque la distancia a 0, la distancia siempre tiene que ser un número positivo. Distance is always a positive number. Distance cannot be negative. Alright, now let's look at the problem. Find f of 5. I substitute the 5. This is just basic math. It's 11 minus 5 is 6. And the absolute value of 6 is 6. Crazy. Okay? El valor absoluto de 6 es 6. Alright. Really, I'm just doing this to review basic math with some of you guys. Alright? F of 1. So f of 1 equals, substitute the 1 wherever you see the x. Alright? PEMDAS, order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. The first step is parentheses. El primer paso en la orden de operaciones es parentheses. So I got to do this first. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. Okay, now I can do the exponent. Ahora hago el exponente. Negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49. Negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49. Negativo 7 por negativo 7 es positivo 49. F of 11. F of 11. F de 11 equals 1 minus 7 times 11. Order of operations. PEMDAS. First I got to do multiplication before I do subtraction. La orden de operación me dice que primero tengo que multiplicar antes de restar. Negative 7 times 11 is negative 77. But mister, doesn't that say 7 times 11? You could do it that way as well, kids. 7 times 11 is 77, and you keep the negative sign in front. There you go, same thing. Okay, now 1 minus 77 equals negative 76. Alright, look at this one. Everything is easy. If it looks weird to you, think about what did I do when it was easy? What did I do when the problem was simple? And follow those same steps. Si un problema luce extraño, piensen de cómo lo hicieron cuando era fácil y siguen los mismos pasos. F of 11 means I substitute the 11 wherever I see the X. Tengo que sustituir el 11 donde quiera que esté la X. Now I follow the order of operation just like I did for every other problem. Tengo que seguir la orden de operación como lo hice en todos los otros problemas. First step, parentheses, but there's nothing to do inside these parentheses. Okay, no hay nada que hacer dentro de estos parentheses. Second step is exponents. Do I see exponents? Yeah, right there. 11 times 11. 11 times 11. Memorize it. 121. 121. Only memorize it if you want to be cool. If you don't want to be cool, don't memorize it. Negative 4 times 11. What's 4 times 1? 4. What's 4 times 1 again? 4. Hey, 44. And a negative times a positive equals a negative. So negative 4 times 11 is negative 44. Alright? Now the last step is addition and subtraction from left to right. That's very important. You got to go in order from left to right. Okay? El último paso es sumar y restar en orden de izquierda a derecha. Tiene que ser de izquierda a derecha. Si lo hacen de derecha a izquierda, lo van a coger mal. Alright, so from left to right. 121 plus 7. If you know that 21 plus 7 is 28, then 121 plus 7 is 128. Okay, now, mental math. Mental math. What's 8 minus 4? 4. What's 12 minus 4? 8. There you go. We should come up with a name for this. When we're in the zone, we should call it the Cobra Zone. We're in the Cobra Zone right now, kids. Forget the challenge zone, right? I don't care about the challenge zone. This is the Cobra Zone. Only Cobras can survive. Look at that, Cobra Zone. Get in the Cobra Zone, guys. Alright, find F of 22. Mister, what is that? I'm scared. It's okay, kids. Put on the Cobra Kai mindset. Substitute 22 wherever you see the X. You shouldn't be scared of a math problem. The math problem should be scared of you. I'm going to put the 22 here. Okay, now look. I'm going to follow the order of operations. Okay? Now in the order of operations, this is called the square root sign or the radical sign. In the order of operations, that's not in there. Or is it? It actually is. Okay? The first step in the order of operations is parentheses. But what parentheses really stands for is any groups. Any groups, you got to simplify first. Anything that's together in a group, you got to simplify first. This right here means that this is a group that I got to simplify first before I could multiply it with negative 7. By the way, whenever you have like a number in front of a radical sign with another number here, that means you got to multiply whatever you get when you get the square root of this number. I'll say it again. First, you got to get the square root of this number. And after you get the square root of that number, this means you multiply it times -7. This is what that means. Okay? Let me say that in Spanish real quick before I continue. Okay? El primer paso en la orden de operaciones es paréntesis. Okay? Ahora, lo que eso quiere decir de verdad es grupos. Primero se tiene que hacer todos los grupos que existen. Esto es una forma de un grupo. Okay? Esto es el signo radical para coger la raíz cuadrada del número que está aquí. Para poder coger la raíz cuadrada, primero tengo que simplificar lo que está aquí. ¿Ok? A la vez que lo simplifico, tengo que coger la raíz cuadrada de ese número y multiplicarlo con este número aquí. Siempre cuando vean un número que está al lado de un signo radical con un número aquí, eso quiere decir que tengo que multiplicar este número por lo que me dé la raíz cuadrada de este número. Eso quiere decir multiplicación, porque no hay ningún signo entre los dos. There's no sign, there's no mathematical operation sign in between the -7 and the radical sign. So that means you multiply -7 times whatever I get here, but I gotta simplify this part first. Alright. So when you get a problem like this on the IXL, please don't message me. I don't know how to do this. It's in the video. Just look at the video and follow the same steps with the numbers that you have now. Alright, so when I do 22 plus 99, alright, I'm going to write it here, but you should be able to do this mental math. Alright, 9 plus 2 is 11. You put a 1 there, you carry the 1. 9 plus 1 is 10. 10 plus 2 is 12. Alright, so I got square root of 121. Just a few problems ago, I told you to memorize, well, did I tell you? Well, I had 11 times 11, and I told you memorize it. It's 121. And look, I honestly didn't think ahead. Just a few problems later, here it's showing up again, but the reverse order. Now I got to get the square root of 121, which is 11. The square root of 121 is 11. Okay? Hace como 2 o 3 problemas, teníamos 11 a la 2, que le dije que era 11 por 11, que es 121, y que lo deben memorizar, porque eso sale mucho. Y ahora mira, aquí apareció otra vez. Pero al revés, ahora tenemos que coger la raíz cuadrada de 121. Que quiere decir, ¿cuál número multiplicado por el mismo número te da 121? Sería 11, porque 11 por 11 te da 121. By the way, I forgot to mention, in case some of you don't know what the square root sign means, that's asking you, what number times the same number equals the number that you have right here? What number times the same number equals the number that you have right here, in this case 121. The answer is 11, because 11 times 11 is 121. Alright, last step is to multiply -7 times 11, and I'm going to get -77. This was still easy. Yeah, maybe I had to do like a slight more work, but come on. This is still easy. Alright, next one. Alright, so find f of 3, so I'm going to substitute the 3 for x. I'm going to have this. The order of operation says I got to divide before I could add. La orden de operaciones me dice que tengo que dividir antes de sumar. 15 divided by 3. If you need a calculator for that, you have serious issues, all right? Because you need to have that memorized. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling your whole life, for real. As you guys like to say, no cap. All right, 15 divided by 3 is 5. I hope you guys LOL'd at that. Mr. be learning slang from you guys. All right, -4 plus 5 is +1. I need to use that word, that phrase more often. No cap. All right, I hope I said it right, man. I hope I'm not saying it wrong. Okay, so f of 3 equals 1. All right. Okay, now in this problem, I want you to stop what you're doing and pay attention, because this one does have something that is very possible you don't know. More than likely you don't know this. So this one you really need to pay attention. I'm going to explain something to you. Okay, para este problema sí necesito que me pongan atención, que paren lo que están haciendo y que pongan atención, porque hay algo que es bien posible que ustedes no saben. Okay, So it says use the following function rule to find f of 0. Alright, so I'm going to substitute 0 wherever I see x, which is going to make it this. Okay, now what I got to explain to you has to do with when you have an exponent of 0. Okay, let me tell you that whenever, every single time that you have an exponent of 0, or let me say that better, any number to the 0 power will always equal 1. I'll repeat that. Any number to the 0 power will always equal 1, and I'll show you why right now. I'll explain to you why that makes total sense. Okay, so just give me one moment. Right? It's not 0. Any number to the 0 power equals 1. Not 0, because what you're most likely to put incorrectly is 0, and that's wrong. Okay? Let me just say that in Spanish and then I'll demonstrate why. En español, cualquier número que tiene un exponente de 0 siempre, siempre, siempre va a ser igual que a 1. Así que cualquier número que tiene un exponente de 0 siempre va a ser igual a 1. No a 0, a 1. Le voy a explicar por qué. Okay, first of all, let me make some little demonstration here. Let me see if I remember how to do. I'm sorry. Let me use the number 2. Let's say 2 to the 4th power divided by 2 to the 3rd power. Okay? Okay. First of all, 2 to the 4th power, in case you don't know, 2 to the 4th power is 16. Because 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, and 2 to the 3rd power is 8, because 2 times 2, I'll do it down here in case you're not following me. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. 2 to the 3rd power is 8. And the first one I did was 2 to the 4th power, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Alright, so 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. What's 16 divided by 8? 16 divided by 8 is 2. Alright, 16 divided by 8 is 2. So that means 2 to the 4th power divided by 2 to the 3rd power is 2. Because I just showed you that 2 to the 4th power is 16 and 2 to the 3rd power is 8. And 16 divided by 8 is 2. Alright? Now, another way you could have done that is when you have the same base. The base is this big number. The base is the 2. When you have the same base and you're dividing, you could just subtract their exponents. 4 minus 3 is 1. And 2 to the 1st power equals 2. Alright? Let me do a different example, this time with variables, and it might be easier to understand this way. Alright? Let's say x to the 8th power divided by x to the 5th power. When the bases are the same, the basis is the x, and you're dividing, you could just subtract the exponents. 8 minus 5 equals 3. So this equals x to the 3rd power. If you don't get why, look, maybe I should have used smaller numbers, but whatever. I'm going to write it all out. X to the 8th power means this. I should have used some smaller exponents. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's x to the 8th power divided by x to the 5th power. Okay, so when you have that, look, this x cancels out, this x cancels out, this x cancels out, this x cancels out, and this x cancels out. Look what's left, x to the 3rd power. Alright, so you should have learned that in middle school. If you forgot it or you didn't really learn it, I'm reminding you right now. Okay, so when you have the same base and you're dividing, you could just subtract their exponents to get your answer. Okay, cuando tienen la misma base, la base es el variable x, o en este caso el número 2, ¿ok? Y están dividiendo y tienen exponente, pueden simplemente restar los exponentes. 4 menos 3 es 1. Y aquí 8 menos 5 me da 3. Aquí les demostré por qué. ¿Ok? Así que en esta situación puedo restar los exponentes. Ok, with that in mind, now look. Ahora miren. Ok. First of all, what's this? You could think about this two ways. This is the same number divided by the same number, and that will always equal 1. The same number divided by the same number will always equal 1. Like if x equals whatever, x equals 5, x equals 6, x equals 2, whatever you want to make x equal to, when you do it to the third power, you're dividing by the same exact thing on the bottom. That will always equal 1. Or another way to say it is subtract their exponents. I can't speak. Subtract their exponents, 3 minus 3. So any number to the 0 power will always equal 1. That's a fact. Do not argue with me. That's a mathematical fact. So whenever you see a number to the 0 power, the answer is 1. I don't care if it says 99 to the 0 power. 99 to the 0 power equals 1. Okay, 1 million, just because I like to exaggerate, 1 million to the 0 power equals 1. Don't ever write 0, because that's what you guys are going to do. You're going to forget, you're not going to pay attention to me, and you're going to write 0, and then you're going to message me on Remind asking me why you got it wrong. Okay, so listen to me so we don't have to go over this again. Any number to the 0 power equals 1. Period. No cap. Ok, siempre cualquier número con un exponente de 0 siempre es igual a 1. Aquí les estoy enseñando que cuando dividen el mismo número por el mismo número, siempre te da 1. Ok, porque esto representa un número. Y si le pongo un exponente de 3 y lo divido por el mismo número con un exponente de 3, ese es el mismo número dividido por el mismo número que siempre te tiene que dar 1. Y también, como le enseñé antes, si tengo la misma base, puedo restar los exponentes. Y en este caso me daría x a la 0. X con un exponente de 0. Y eso es igual a 1. Así que no me importa cuál número es. Cualquier número con un exponente de 0 es igual a 1. Puede ser 99 a la 0, te da 1. Ok, cualquier número con un exponente de 0 te da 1. Alright, back to this problem. Ahora vamos a hacer este problema. Okay, now I know any number to the 0 power equals 1. So now I got this. Look how simple. The answer is negative 3. There you go, kids. Look how easy that was. It looked difficult, and it was actually very simple. I didn't mean to write that dash there. Okay, eso era fácil. Alright, we're almost done. Okay, now look at this one. Okay, you have... They want you to find f... Alright, this one you should pay attention also. F of negative 7. Okay, este deben poner atención también. Alright, so when I substitute the negative 7 where x is, I got this. Alright, so again, I'm going to follow the order of operations, which means first do parentheses. There are no parentheses here, but the absolute value signs are like parentheses because they are creating this group that I have to simplify this group first before I could do anything that's outside of these signs. So again, the absolute value signs are just like parentheses signs in the sense that you have to do them first in the order of operations in this case, okay? En esta ecuación tengo que primero hacer el valor absoluto, okay? Porque están actuando como paréntesis en el sentido de esto es un grupo que tengo que simplificar antes de poder hacer lo que está afuera de este grupo. Alright, so with that in mind, now I got this. Negative 7 plus 9 is positive 2. So I got to get the absolute value of positive 2. The absolute value of positive 2 is 2. And then I put this negative sign in front of it. Alright, I'll say it again. That's the answer. The absolute value of positive 2 is 2. That gets rid of the absolute value signs, but you have this negative sign in front of it. So you leave it there because we didn't do anything with it. Alright, so the answer is the f of negative 7 is negative 2. Another way you could think about it, although this is making it more complicated, is you could imagine that this is a negative 1. So the absolute value of 2 is 2, and then you're multiplying it with this negative 1, and you get negative 2. That's making it more complicated, but just in case you don't get it, that's another way you can think about it, okay? Así que primero simplifiqué lo que estaba dentro de los signos de valor absoluto. Negativo 7 más 9 es positivo 2. El valor absoluto de positivo 2 es 2. Y este signo negativo está afuera, lo tengo que dejar ahí y ponerlo al frente del 2, cambiándolo a negativo 2, ¿ok? Que es la respuesta. También pueden pensar que esto es negativo 1 Y cuando cogí el valor absoluto de 2, que es 2, lo multipliqué por negativo 1 y me dio negativo 2. Alright, so that's the answer. F of negative 7 is negative 2. Okay? Okay, they're going to throw decimals at you. Big deal. Decimals. That's not difficult, okay? Ahora tenemos decimales. Por es la misma bobería. Same thing. If something looks strange, do the exact same thing that you did when it looks simple. Alright, so F of 115.16 equals negative 1.21 times the square root multiplicado por la raíz cuadrada de 115.16 minus 106.16. Alright, so again, first step in the order of operations is parentheses, which means groups. So I gotta simplify this group so that I could then get the square root of it and multiply it with this negative 1.21. Lo primero que tengo que simplificar es esto, aquí. So, in case you need a refresher, to subtract decimals, I gotta line up the decimal points. Tengo que linear los puntos decimales. 6 minus 6 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay, now I cannot take away 6 from the 5, so I gotta make the 5 a 15 by borrowing 1 from this one right here, which becomes a 0. 15 minus 6 is 9, and 10 minus 10 is 0. So 115.16 or 115.16 minus 106.16 is 9. Okay? Okay, so now I got this. Alright, so everybody should know what the square root of 9 is. That means what number times the same number equals 9. If you don't know that, you're in deep trouble, deep doo-doo. Okay? Si no saben qué es la raíz cuadrada de 9, tienen problemas graves. Okay? La raíz cuadrada de 9 es 3. Alright, so now I got 3. Now mental math, please. The next part is easy mental math. Hagan esto en la mente. A positive times a negative equals a negative. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Decimal point. 3 times 1 is 3. I'm done. No calculators used in the making of this problem, or in the solving of this problem. Okay, I think this is the last one, I'm pretty sure. Alright, I don't know why I put this one, it's pretty easy, but let's just go over it real quick. F of 3 equals negative 2.39 times 3 minus 2.59. Alright, so the order of operations tells me that first I gotta multiply. La orden de operación me dice que primero tengo que multiplicar. A positive times a negative equals a negative. Now I'm gonna multiply 3 times 2.39. You can do that mental math. 3 times 9 is 27. I carry the 2. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 more is 11. I put a 1 and carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. If your problem has 2 numbers after the decimal point, your answer also has to have 2 numbers after the decimal point. So I got negative 7.17. Si el problema tiene 2 números detrás del punto decimal, la respuesta también tiene que tener 2 números detrás del punto decimal. Okay, so now I gotta subtract negative 7.17 minus 2.59. Don't grab a calculator unless you want to be lame. If you want to be lame, go grab a calculator. If you want to be cool, don't grab one. Okay, first of all, just a reminder on how negative numbers work. When you do negative, esto es un ejemplo de cómo restar números negativos. Negative 7, excuse me, negative 7 minus 2. Here's a number line. Here's 0. Here's negative 7. Whenever you subtract 2, you got to go 2 numbers to the left. Cuando se resta 2, se van 2 números a la izquierda. But the numbers are going like this. So negative 7 minus 2 is negative 9. What does this tell me? What does this tell me? This tells me that when I have a negative number and I'm subtracting from it, you add them together and you keep the sign negative. You end up adding 7 plus 2 gives me 9, and I keep the sign negative. So that tells me how to do this easily. My answer is going to be negative, and I got to add 7.17 plus 2.59. I got to add those numbers together. I'm really subtracting, but I'm just telling you, that's how the numbers work out. ¿Ok? Este ejemplo me enseña que cuando yo tengo un número negativo y le estoy restando un número positivo, ¿ok? Lo que pasa es que estoy restando, pero los números se suman, 7 más 2 es 9 y se mantiene el signo negativo. Estoy restando, pero así es como se calcula el número. Ok, así que eso me dice que mi respuesta va a ser negativo, pero tengo que sumar estos dos números. 9 plus 7 is 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. Keep the decimal point right here. 7 plus 2 is 9. So my answer is negative 9.76. There's my answer. Boys and girls, we are done. That concludes this lesson.